afternoon. Thank you for coming. We are students of Universidad de Chile. We are doing a market research about the use the apps between the financial world, because we want to create a product that focuses in this industry. So we would like to know what is the most important factors to take into account before to create the product and enter this market. We know that you work in a financial company that focuses in the compounding, and therefore you are in contact with a lot of people during your working hours. So I would like that you answer some questions for research. To begin, that we would like to introduce your name, what is your profession, and where you work.
Okay. Well, hello. Thank you for inviting me to this instance. I think it's a really good opportunity to improve my English. So, thanks. Well, about your first question. My name is Gonzalo Bahamondes. I'm a software developer at Bigwell. Bigwell is a company which helps small and medium-sized companies to raise funds. But the really interesting thing about Bigwell is we don't have money. We don't lend our money. We get the money from different people. People like you or me, they want to invest in good opportunities. So we have a web platform where we introduce the companies and his projects and needs to the investors, and they decide where to put his money. When we retrieve all the money for complete our lending, we just give the money to the company, and then we sign some agreements and contracts to define where the company, when and how the company will return the money to us. So basically, when the company starts to pay us the money, to return the money for us, we return the money to the investor, obviously adding the interest associated with the operation. Well, that's how Bigwell works. I think this is awesome because this allows to small and medium-sized companies which doesn't have the opportunity to get funds in other big financial entities to keep growing and keep doing his projects and keep improving. And by the other side, we help to investors, normal people, to increase his capital, investing his money in really good opportunities with a really good return rates. That's me and that's Bigwell.
What are you interested in working for his company?
Well, to be honest, at the start, I was not really interested about the business because I have no idea about the business. I did not have idea about the business in that moment. I just started to work here because when I was looking for some jobs, I found a really interesting stack of development technologies, things like I love and I'm really interested to learn. So, well, finally, I get hired for Bigwell. So my interest was not for the business, but finally it's really interesting.
Focuses in the financial term according to experience. How are the financial knowledge of the people who comes to your company? Do you see that this knowledge is the same in all people?
I'm not sure if I understand completely, but if you are talking about people who works at Bigwell, okay, if you are talking about people who work at Bigwell, in Bigwell you have a lot of different profiles of people. Someone are really experienced, they have more than 10 years working in financial industry, or are people like me that have no idea about finances when I start to working at Bigwell. So I think the world is, well, not the world, but the whole country is really similar. I think there are not a lot of people who has a lot of experience in finances, but the most part of them probably are like me 1 year ago. They get financial products like credit cards and things, and they use in his daily life, but they don't really understand how to use them better, or what are the costs or the interest rates of these cards. They don't really understand how the things work under the hood. I think this is the most common pattern on the people.
Okay. What do you think are the most relevant problems that have people when looking for a credit of monetary funds for their project?
Okay, well, it's important to understand that if you get more money, if you have a good payment history, a good financial history, you can access to better interest rates, to better products. So the people who has money has not real problems to get funds. But instead of that, the people who is starting in the industry, or the people who is starting in his career, they have access as persons, as normal persons, not as companies. They have access to financial products issued by the biggest companies, like banks or things like that. But the financial product that you can access when you are starting are the worst. They have really bad rates of interest and things like that. It's worse if you are a company and a startup, a company which is starting in his way, because there are some entities which just not will not give you fundings, because you don't meet the basic requirements of the company. So I think these are the problems in general terms, but thinking in other problems, I don't know if you have experience, but it's really hard when you ask for a lending or a credit. You have to fill tons of forms, things, send a lot of documents. I don't know if it's a really important problem, but it's really tedious.
Okay. Do you think if people will have financial knowledge, they will be less reluctant to ask for a credit or monetary funds?
Sorry, again. The people who has knowledge?
No, the people don't have knowledge. If they have knowledge in finances, they are less reluctant to ask for a credit.
Well, I think it depends. There's levels of knowledge, I think. There's the people who has no idea. They often try to get credits from the banks. There's the people like me, which is an intermediate state, which reads the contracts of their credit cards. We try to understand how to use better his products. And there's the people who really understand everything, who really know where to put his money to generate better rentability or things like that. I think the first one loves ask for money. I think the medium state try to not ask for credits or monies, because they know that can be dangerous and the interests are high. The people who have a lot of knowledge has not, they are not afraid to lose money, or well, everything has risk, but they know where to put his money, where to invest his money to increase his capital. So I think the most skilled, they have a lot of knowledge, maybe not try to get funds, but if they have a really good idea that they knows that will generate a lot of money in the future, probably they will do.
What are the behaviors or patterns of people who generally don't have financial skills?
Okay, I think there's no way to define specifically which patterns are, but the most common patterns are they tend to accept any kind of financial product offered by the companies, and they tend to use a lot his products without understanding really how they work. Another common pattern is they really underestimate the importance of saving money, which is really important because saving money or investing in the right direction, probably you can make possible develop some kind of project that you have. So if you don't have this culture, it's really hard because you will need to lend money to companies, and obviously you will pay more than you get.
In relation to that, do you think there is a relation between ignorance and debt in Chilean people?
I think not really. Working on Big12, I know a lot of people who has a lot of debts. They has a lot of, I think, studies. They have careers. They are engineers, lawyers, different things. They have companies, so they identified a good opportunity to make money. But anyway, they have a lot of debts, so I think it's not directly related.
In your opinion, what are the risks or problems of the financial industry?
Well, at this moment, I can think in just two kinds of risks. The first one is when you don't really understand how your financial products works, and you start to use them without tracking what you are buying and how much they are interest are implied in this bug. Well, this basically you start to spend money, and then at some point you cannot pay the debt, and this leads in you trying to get more money from the bank, and finally you get a really big debt. By the other side, I can think in the risk of making investments. There are three levels of, well, every investment has a risk too. There's no way to invest your money without risk. But there are three levels too. The first one are with the less risk is when you put some money on the bank, when pass a lot of time, you can get the money again and with a big interest, a really small interest. So you win some money. And the other extreme is when you buy some stocks from companies, and you can win a lot of money in one day, in hours maybe, but you can lose all your money too in minutes. And the medium size, that are companies like what I'm working right now. They have not really low levels of risk. It will depend in which kind of operation to invest, but they are not really extremely, they don't have a lot of risk too. They are intermediate. I think that's what I think about the risk finances.
Okay. What are the needs of your clients that you can appreciate? So, what do clients want or looking for?
This is easy to answer. I think in Chile, everyone is trying to get time, so everyone wants fast things. It's the most important thing. As I said before, when you ask for a credit in a bank, you have to fill tons of forms, you have to send a lot of documents, but in companies like Big12, where I'm working today, we try to improve these problems. We try to solve these problems and try to move fast in order to get the money to the people fast.
Now we want to talk about the apps.
Okay.
What do you think about the use of application are increasing the last year?
What I think about the increase of the use of the applications. Well, I think it's a natural process. The hardware gets better, so you can install a lot of applications in your cell phones. The internet now is almost unlimited, so you start to do everything with your cell phone. So I think, yes, it has increased and will keep increasing over the time.
What do you think about application free?
Well, I think, well, not every application is really free. There are a lot of different kinds of applications. There are paid applications, there are free applications. But about free applications, I think, well, they are great because you can access without paying. Obviously, they are great. But some kinds of some applications are free because maybe you don't get money to the company, but you get your data. With your data, they can get a lot of money. So sometimes the application looks like free, but they really don't. But anyway, it's really nice to have free technology that you can test, try. Based on that, you maybe can create a better application or something like that.
Yes. What are the steps for making an app?
Well, this is a long answer. There are a lot of steps on creating an app, but I think the first one is try to identify a problem, not create a problem. You must identify a problem that is right now here, that needs to be solved. Sometimes the problem was already solved. Sometimes not. If it's not solved yet, it's nice because you are the first one trying to solve the problem. But can be bad too, because you cannot base in other applications to find what is wrong or try to improve it. Well, once if you find a problem that you want to solve, next to that, you need to identify what are the users, so who is the people which is having these problems, and then I think you can try to define a set of features that you want to offer to the customer or the end user that will help to solve his problem, and you need to think too in what other problems will be generated by the application itself. You need to try to prioritize the things and see what are more important, which are more important, and well, start to implementing the features, but you need to try to do in small parts. It's not a good idea try to create the whole application at once. It's really important try to get just some feature, implement, writing some kind of code in any language, programming language. And when you implement the feature, it's really important, well, test yourself that it's working as you expect, and then goes to the user and ask to the user for feedback and say, hey, how is my application? He will provide you really important feedback because sometimes we have a really wrong idea of how to solve the problem. Really the unique own of the trust is the final user, the end user. So maybe you can change the direction of the application or of your development depending on what the customer wants or what are the ideas to solve the problem. So first identify a problem, define the features, prioritize them, implement the features, ask to the customer how is going your program, and this part will be you will be interacting with the user a lot of times in this. You will be asking to the user, getting feedback, improving your application, fixing your code, releasing new features, and then the product is ready.
In relation with this, do you know what are the costs to create an application?
I think there's no any kind of magic formula to calculate the cost of creating an application. It will depend on a lot of factors. By example, you plan to hire some developers to write the application. You want to do by yourself. Maybe you need pay some kind of tutorials, courses to understand how to write code. Maybe you are an expert, I don't know. And it will depend a lot too if what is the complex of what you want to accomplish. So I think there's no specific way to know how much it costs.
Yes.
Yeah, how much it costs.
And generally, how many people are needed to create an application?
How many people? Sorry?
How many people are needed to create an application?
How many? Okay, sorry. How many people you need for creating an application? Well, it will depend a lot. You can write an application alone. There's no problem. If you are something, if you handle all the aspects of the development process, if you know how to create a user interface, how to write the code, how to store data in a database, and then deploy to production to some kind of service on internet. Maybe you can use already services that are working on internet and put it together to finally get something interesting. So I think there's no an arbitrary number of people who you need for create an application. You can create an application with 1 people or with 10 people.
In your opinion, how long does it take for a programmer to make an application?
I think it's really similar to the previous question of how much it costs, because for a single programmer, just one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it will depend. There are some technologies that are really fast in specific things. No, there's no silver bullets. There's not a single technology that can do everything at once. That can do everything good. Some technologies are good or fast in some kind of tasks, other harder or more complex to accomplish some kind of problem. So it will depend a lot of what technologies you want to use. It will depend a lot too if you already know these technologies, so you need to learn these technologies to use them. So sadly, it's not possible. Well, it will depend a lot too in what is the complexity of your solution that you want to create. So I think it's not possible to say exactly how much. It will take 1 month now. There's no way.
What are the characteristics that most people value when using an application?
Well, the people use application because they want to learn something, or they want to do something that they don't know how to do, because the application can do the thing without you learning the thing. You don't need to learn. The application can do the thing, it's done. You don't need to understand what it's doing. But independently of why you are using the application, I think the most important feature or the most important aspect that you must consider is keep it simple. Keep the application simple, keep the user interface easy to understand. You can create a really nice system, whole system that can do everything, but if the final user cannot understand how to do the things, your application is dead.
What are the main barriers to enter the world of applications?
Well, I think nowadays there's not big barriers to enter to the world of applications. There's a lot of sources to understand how to get your hands on code and create your own applications. The unique thing that I can think right now is the most important documentation to learn to write code or create applications. It's in English. So if you can't read English, it will be hard for you to understand. there's a lot of open source libraries that the most important applications use today, and you can use. But the creators of these libraries are native English speakers, so they write his documentation in English.
About this aspect, I think there is a lot of competition in the market application, right?
What do you mean, market?
And the market applications in the world.
Okay.
There is a lot of competition.
Yeah, of course,
Yes.
there's a lot every day. They try to release new features, better things, and
And
improving the user
compared
experience.
with other countries, is it similar to Chile or?
I think it's worse than Chile. They have more competition. They are trying to release new version of everything every day. So you have a cell phone, so you get actual updates of your applications every day because they are trying to compete with the others.
Okay.
Do you think applications are a good way to promote the financial knowledge?
I think technology in general is a really good way to promote anything. I think obviously you can promote financial knowledge, you can promote any kind of knowledge, well, you can sell things and everything. Maybe not close your mind in applications. Maybe tomorrow we will not use in applications, we will use other kind of technology. But yes, technology is a really good way to promote financial knowledge.
Thank you for the information. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Okay, me too.